Here's Brody Brazil.
So normally when a team like the Arizona Cardinals comes out and announces they're upgrading their team facility by $100 million, that's typically not a big deal. I mean, it has been about a decade. 2015, they pumped in $15 million to this facility to bring it up to speed in Tempe, but now another $100 million to move things forward and keep it fresh for the future. It's just the timing of this announcement and the upgrade comes on the heels of a pretty harsh criticism by the NFLPA and specifically Cardinals players, their grades of the Cardinals team and overall facilities as a workplace. This is from the PA, 1,700 players across the league, 77% of NFL players this past season. They provided information to share with one another about their current club to not only help each other make important career decisions, but also help raise standards across the league. The PA says they were encouraged. It seems many teams had been listening to their player feedback in prior years and made changes, and the fact that players are noticing these efforts and this year's grades reflect some of the feedback. And the feedback on the Cardinals, again, not very good in terms of a GPA system. Each team was given respective letter grades, which we'll get into for the Cardinals, a 1.57 GPA for Arizona, dead last in the NFL. How did they rank across the board? Treatment of families, a D+. The food and dining area, a D-. Nutritionist and dietitian was not bad, but the locker room, an F-. Was that even possible? Training room, D-. Training staff, a C. Weight room, an F. Coaches, strength coaches, a C+. Team travel, a B. The head coach got an A. And ownership, maybe an ensemble of everything going on here. Ownership was ranked 30th in the league at a D-. The overview from the PA about the Cardinals situation is this. The Cardinals finish at the bottom of this year's report card rankings. Top concern for many players is the need for an updated, modernized, and expanded team facility. Nearly every space within the facility is described as too small, especially the team's locker room. Now, I imagine they're mostly talking about this practice facility, which is now getting upgraded. Now you're seeing the timing of it. This came out on Wednesday. And the Cardinals shortly after, I can't remember if it was either Wednesday or Thursday, announced, oh, by the way, we're putting in $100 million into upgrading our facility. Many players also highlight non-construction related improvements that would enhance their workplace conditions, such as an upgraded food program, more variety and higher quality offerings, as well as pregame sideline passes for their families. When asked what the team is doing best, many players praise head coach Jonathan Gannon for fostering a strong team culture. So again, the grades largely centering around facilities, like the most negative parts are around the facilities. Don't also exclude the ownership from this. I mean, I guess that would be part of the idea and the funding of the facilities, but the weight room got an F. Players feel the weight room equipment is below average. They feel they do not have enough space in their weight room. The locker room, 50% of players said they have enough space in their individual lockers. That ranks 30th out of 32 teams. Only 24% of the players believe the overall locker room size is adequate, ranking the Cardinals 32 out of 32 teams. And so the Cardinals responded with this statement. And again, you'd have to understand all of this was strategic. The player poll grading and survey, it came out, but at the awareness of all the teams. Like, the Cardinals were not shocked by this. They're not instantly reacting to this, and this didn't come out in an instant. They knew the player grades were coming, and so they had this prepared and ready to go. Our goal is to provide the best possible environment, facilities, and resources, and to give our team the greatest opportunity to succeed. We are working hard to achieve that. Last season, we shared with our players the plans for a new training facility at the existing Tempe location with a targeted completion date of 2027. You see how in there, too, they kind of hinted that, hey, we had already been working on this, and go ask the players. We already told them this is something we were working on. So they got the bad grade. They knew they were probably going to get the bad grade, but they also knew that they weren't going to announce this until right after the grade came out, right? And maybe there's nothing wrong with that. If they were really already doing this, it's a way to control the narrative. It also looks a little bit reactionary, but I'm going to tell you, I think it's absolutely not reactionary. We have hired Rossetti, a leading architecture firm that has worked with a number of NFL teams on their new facilities, and the design process is underway. We will continue to explore all the other ways, large and small, that we can get better in every single area of our operation. And I think that last part was also added in there just to prove that they're not discounting all of the other criticisms from maybe the food and the pregame passes, all the other things that maybe are somewhat in their control, somewhat changeable. Like, they're not discounting that. All the other ways, large and small, that we can get better in every single area of our operation. So it's not just this $100 million. It's not just the facility. That's a huge chunk of it. I assume they think that's going to solve most of these problems, but they're willing to at least acknowledge everything else. Here are my takeaways. It's $100 million for the new practice facility, basically in the same spot. And I want to clarify, I think the criticisms here by the players were about this training facility. If you look across the board at NFL teams, yes, they have their home stadiums and the Cardinals play out in Glendale, but I don't think, like, the age of that stadium, it's not that old, and I don't think the facilities there are the ones in question. The team really only spends the one home game day and the locker room and the facilities there. Everything else they do, even in away game weeks, they spend their days ahead of that at the home training facility, which is obviously in Tempe. So a majority of the Cardinals players' time is spent at this training facility. So I think this has to be the area of criticism. I don't think they were talking about their stadium out in Glendale, their home stadium. I think it's more about the training facility. So that's why they're pumping in $100 million towards this. And again, this was not an instant reaction to the player survey. I know that's how it seems and feels and appears, and like, we got bashed pretty hard. Let's pump in $100 million and quiet everybody up and make this go away. Nobody would do that and feel like a ransom note was written to them and they would respond that way. Again, this was all planned. It was all prepared. You'd have to think that they were waiting to announce this until after the criticism they knew was coming out, was about to come out, so that they could instantly counter it and try and make good on it. But was this something that a prior survey influenced? Like, let's go to the origin of the Cardinals actually making the decision to suspend $100 million and to improve their training facility. Like, when did they make that decision? And was that largely based on, let's say, criticism from last year's survey? Now, that's very possible. I said it wasn't because of this year, but how about the prior year when ownership and management saw that and said, hey, we're slipping. This is an area we can improve. They talk about it. Can we do this? How would we do this? How much would we spend? Where would we do this? And so through the course of last year to this year's grades, maybe they figured some things out. So again, I do think this might have been a result of player survey reaction, but from last year, not from this year. And I think the last point to make here is, are the Cardinals trying to just keep up with NFL standards here? Are they trying to set a new bar and have something so amazing and so luxurious and so attractive to players across the league that it's going to be the new standard? Or are they just trying to keep up with everybody else? And I think that's a difficult pace. Like, you see some of these teams doing elaborate and exquisite things, and it's hard for every other team then to have something similar like that. Let's say that you just redid your facility 3 years ago, and now the other team down the road has got 10 new things that you don't. Well, it's going to be another 10 years before you even have the money in the budget to do something like that all over again. So it's very difficult to keep up with the Joneses, let's say. But the Cardinals are at least doing diligence in responding to a pretty large player request. By the way, it does look like those baseball and softball fields up there, it looks like they need a little bit of water. But it is Arizona. It is Tempe. I do understand the problem out there. Look at everything besides the football fields. Yeah, it seems like this must have been taken in a drought-type situation for Arizona. And you see that big bubble. That is their training facility. So they've got the 2 outdoor fields. They've got the big building all the way to the left, kind of next to Kyler's left shoulder there. And then that big white space right there, that's the big bubble dome that they practice in when it's way too hot outside during the beginning of the season and more like the summer months. So Cardinals reacting to something, probably not this year's survey, but maybe a prior year's survey. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments section below. Also, thumbs up down there helps me, this video, and this channel down below. And one more thing, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. That way I can definitely see you back here next time.